Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Wednesday, February 16th, 2022. Welcome to day 393. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said there's been no meaningful pullback of Russian forces at the Ukrainian border, disputing the Kremlin's claim that it was withdrawing some of its troops. Blinken added that Russian troops, quote, remain massed in a very threatening way along Ukraine's borders. It would be good if they follow through on what they said, but so far we haven't seen it, end quote. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg agreed with the U.S. assessment, saying that Russia remains capable of a, quote, full-fledged invasion of Ukraine without any warning time, end quote. U.S. analysts estimate that more than 150,000 Russian troops have currently amassed near the Ukrainian border. Moving on, Biden rejected Trump's claim that his White House visitor logs are subject to executive privilege, directing the National Archives to send the Trump administration logs to the January 6th committee. In a letter to the National Archives, White House counsel Dana Remus said Biden had determined that executive privilege is, quote, not in the best interests of the United States, end quote, adding that in light of the urgency of the committee's work, the archives should provide the records to the committee within 15 days. Trump was trying to block the release of the records, which show appointment information about who entered the White House on the day of the insurrection. Meanwhile, the January 6th committee subpoenaed 6 more people who are tied to the plan to use false slates of electors to help Trump stay in office after losing the 2020 election. The committee subpoenaed 2 of Trump's campaign aides and Republican Party officials from Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. All 6 are ordered to provide documents to the committee by March 1st, and to submit to questioning from March 8th to March 15th. Moving on, the EPA will reinstate California's authority to adopt its own stricter tailpipe emission standards. The Biden administration is finalizing the waiver, which would reverse a Trump-era rollback, and it's expected to come within days. In 2019, the Trump administration revoked California's decades-old waiver, allowing it to set more strict air pollution standards for cars and light trucks than those that are required by the federal government. 14 states and the District of Columbia, which represent more than a third of the U.S. vehicle market, have followed California standards. Back in D.C., Trump's former Interior Department secretary was found to have misused his position to advance a development project in his hometown and then lied about it to an ethics official. Inspector General Mark Greenblatt's report found that Ryan Zinke repeatedly broke federal ethics rules by improperly participating in real estate negotiations, including directing his staff to assist on the project. Despite sending dozens of emails and text messages and meeting with developers in his office at the Interior Department, Zinke told an ethics official in 2018 that he had done nothing improper. The Justice Department declined to bring charges. And finally, the CDC is expected to loosen its indoor masking guidelines as a growing number of states have eased their masking mandates following the Omicron wave. Speaking during a White House coronavirus task force briefing, the director of the CDC, Rochelle Walensky, said the agency was working on guidance that was relevant and that it would be based on the level of severe disease and hospitalizations in a given community. Quote, we want to give people a break from things like mask wearing when these metrics are better, and then have the ability to reach for them again should things worsen, Walensky said. The U.S. reported an average of about 136,000 new daily COVID-19 cases over the last week, down 83% from the record high that was set on January 15th. About 85,000 people with COVID-19 remain hospitalized across the nation, down from a peak of nearly 160,000 on January 20th. Joe Biden, meanwhile, is set to deliver his State of the Union address on March 1st, and is expected to lay out a new nationwide strategy to move past the pandemic. And in the polls, Politico says 49% of voters want states to rescind their mask mandates, while 43% say it's still too early. 65% of Democrats think it's too early, compared to 20% of Republicans and 42% of independents. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.